I can't continue with this series anymore. They got me too many times. They got me too many times because this happens with every single episode. Every single episode, it's the same thing. You have your amazing, wonderful concept, right? You have your good storytelling mechanics being used to tell the story. And then you have a nice hook and you're feeling for the characters. And you get to the ending and it ruins the entire thing and makes you not even want to rewatch it. I mean, again, I can't continue with this series. All right. So this is a long time coming, but I'm going to release it. So we're talking Black Mirror, Common People. This is from season 7, and this is going to be my spoiler review of the episode. So if any of you guys checked out my previous review of the episode, which was kind of like a, my wife made me watch it type of a thing. And that was, I think, the point where I said, hey, we're done with these Black Mirror episodes because of all the Black Mirror episodes I've seen, this is probably one of the best ones. I'm serious in terms of how well it's able to capture certain elements and how well it's able to portray things. To me, is was absolutely incredible. I really, really enjoyed the storyline with the husband, and I'm going to call them husband and wife in this situation because I don't remember their names at this point, at least. But what I really, really liked about the story and about the situation between the husband and wife is that what you tend to get is this really authentic looking relationship that also has a lot of difficulties and struggles that are placed upon it that are not necessarily because of the relationship between the two, but just life circumstances that happen, right? It's really emotional and it's really real. You definitely feel it. As someone who's a husband myself and has gone through a few things in my marriage, uh, again, I could relate a lot with what was happening in this episode. And as someone just living in the modern economy that we're in and with what's going on, this episode does an incredibly well job of illustrating sort of those highs and those lows, those ups and those downs and those difficulties, and how hard it is to sort of survive in the economy that we're living in right now, at least here in. I'm filming this in 2026 right now, but either way, right? You can really sort of feel for the characters, and they do a great job of showcasing this. Another thing that it does a great job of doing in this episode is visually telling the story. The cinematographers, the writers, the directors, all those that are involved with making this piece, you can tell that they at least know what they're doing when it comes to making something compelling and interesting and watchable, which I think actually makes this even worse in terms of how horrible this show ends up being and how I simply cannot recommend watching it. So let me get to why that is. Again, this is a spoiler review. So if you have not watched it, go ahead and watch it. Come right back and listen to this. But I'm expecting you to have seen the episode already. So I'm going to dive deep into spoiler territory. So in this, what you end up happening is the villain, I guess you could say, of the story is the software as a service company, the SaaS company here that I mean, they're like a medical technology company, but let's face it, they're basically a SaaS company, right? In terms of their pricing model, all those types of things. And they're essentially the enemy. So you're looking at capitalism and big business as the enemy, which in this case, these guys are dealing with a lot of their financial struggles, which is cool. Okay, that's what you want to tell as a story. Now, underlying the actual story is the relationship between the husband and the wife. And in particular, what happens when the wife is hurt and the husband has to sort of step up and essentially provide for both of them and to essentially go above and beyond his means to save his, in this case, damsel in distress, because he's essentially stuck between having to choose whether or not to save her life or to just let her die. And obviously he chooses to save her life. I mean, who wouldn't in this case, right? And again, everything is rolling smoothly. But where this whole episode and this whole thing just crashes entirely is once you get to the ending. I don't know if I could say it's the third act. It feels like it's the last 10 minutes of the episode. It's almost like they forgot to finish the story in a way. And what I mean by that is you have your first act, second act, and then the third act kind of isn't there in that you have the situation happen where essentially he goes ballistic he goes and almost kills someone, and essentially, or does he kill him? I don't remember if he kills him anymore. Anyways, he goes ballistic and does what he does, and essentially what ends up happening is he loses his job completely entirely, which is what you didn't want to happen. And again, this is where it's really relatable when it comes to people, maybe not necessarily losing their cool and getting someone severely injured and losing their job that way, but job losses happen all the time. And when you're looking at a job loss and you're looking at a financial situation that's difficult and you're looking at all those things compounded together, you're like, oh wow, this is a heavy story. This is crazy. What's going to happen next? You're wondering what's going to happen next, and then what happens is they time jump. What is it, like a year or so? Uh, I forget how long it is. They time jump a year later and essentially give up on telling the rest of the story, at least is what it feels like. Because the resolution then end up coming with is absolutely inexcusable, which is he ends up killing his wife. And then I think he goes into that room where he was recording the stuff and commits suicide within that room. Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense at all. How do you go from where he was to killing his spouse to he himself maybe committing suicide on camera? I honestly don't know. But to me, that ending itself, it's just very uninspiring, nihilistic, and yeah, it's just horrible. Essentially, what you get from watching that is when you have difficult situations in your life, things that seem insurmountable, what you should do is give up, fold over, throw in the towel, kill your spouse. I don't, again, the messaging behind what is shown here is absolutely terrible and morbid. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a way that this ending can actually work, right? And can actually be a great ending. But the seeds for that ending have to be planted throughout the episode. So I think a great example to sort of showcase that is you have the situation where throughout the episode he's sort of given a chance or an opportunity to have to figure things out with his financial situation because his wife is like dying in front of him, right? And one of the things that I think could have really made this poignant is had his wife told him something that he could eventually use to essentially better himself and move his career forward. Whatever that may have been, let's say a degree or some sort of course he could have taken online, something that she could have recommended for him to do. And maybe in his pride, his arrogance, whatever, he doesn't listen to his wife. And then things start to happen. She starts to get sick. He needs to make more money. And then rather than choosing to listen to what she said, he goes on that online website and does those weird, kooky things online and essentially makes money that way. And then she continues to remind him throughout the episode, hey, there's that thing. Maybe you could try that thing out. And he's still not with it because he feels that his career or his current job is secure and that nothing wrong will happen. That can then lead to the situation that happens where he ends up losing that job. He ends up needing that sort of career pivot. And because he didn't listen to his wife throughout the episode, he's unable to do anything. Now, if you time jump and fast forward a year, what you end up getting is this situation where things are completely in shambles. And at this point, he has to literally kill his wife at the end of the episode. And what that shows is sort of symbolically that by not listening to her and by not bettering himself, essentially, he was killing her slowly over time until eventually the killing ends up happening, which then shows a wonderful metaphor for marriages and for relationships and sort of the importance of being able to listen to each other within a relationship. And it actually transforms the entire story had you have it go that way. There's other ways you can go about it as well in terms of rather than have it be a tragic story, a more heroic story as well, which I would have preferred the heroic one. But again, what you end up getting here is just an ending that completely destroys the rest of the story. And the issues I have with it is because when watching it, you can tell that the writers know how to write. You can tell that the people behind the camera know what they're doing. And I feel like because they wanted a shocking ending and they just wanted to go with a shocking ending, one that is sort of unorthodox, one that is essentially subverting your expectations because they went that route, that shock factor, it absolutely ruined the whole thing. Like it just destroys the whole thing. And that's my issue with a lot of Black Mirror stuff is you have a really cool, great concept where technology is evil and terrible and, some really cool stuff can sort of happen with the concepts that are on this show. There's so many of them. I mean, every single episode has a really cool Black Mirror concept. And when people are talking about the show, they're talking about the really cool concepts, which is cool. In this one, they have the concept of the person having, software in their brain, and that software in their brain allows for them to sort of still function, even though they're missing parts of the brain. Cool concept. And you sort of see that escalation and the issues with sort of how software companies are designed right now, where they seem really cool and affordable at the start, and then they sort of continue to increase and increase, and they start putting ads in there. Again, great concept. On the surface level, it's great. The problem is that when you look at the story at a deeper level, when you look at it at that level in which you're talking about these deeper concepts, that's where it fails. And to me, when you're watching something, it's about more than just a cheap thrill. There's something in there that is valuable and unique and actually of use. There's a utility to what we watch. And to me, the reason why I can't recommend this is that there's no utility to it. Let me give an example. Let's say you did go with the ending I prescribed, which is him not listening to his wife, which then leads to this whole situation. When someone then watches that, every single time they watch this tragedy, it reminds them of the importance of actually listening to their spouse when their spouse is bringing something up. And it reinforces that to an extent to where it actually helps you within your marriage and helps to better enrich that marriage. It actually transforms the marriage, right? But with what we get here, there isn't anything that's usable. And I'll share my story because this is actually very poignant to this video and why it's actually taken me this long to record this video. Because I didn't really enjoy the episode and I don't really want to rewatch it because of the things I'm mentioning now. But in particular here, the reason why I couldn't watch it is because I was in a very similar situation to the guy in the video. I was in a situation where I needed to increase my income and I needed to do it very quickly. And on top of that, it was because of certain issues that were going on medically. So it's almost identical to this story. And knowing that I needed to do a review for this thing, the first thing I thought is I cannot watch it because I knew that the ending is give up. Essentially, the guy giving up on everything and deleting himself. Again, we're not sure about that. They don't mention it, but deleting his life ultimately, which is not what you want going in your head when you're pursuing a different career path, when you're pursuing different job interviews, this type of thing. It's just not what you want in your head. And therefore, I refuse to watch it for those reasons. Now, had the story gone, let's say the heroic route, for example, where he realizes he messes up, he realizes he should have listened to her, and he decides to shift his mindset and change. And then during that 1 year jump, that's actually him transitioning from one career point to another. And then he's able to afford, say, that software that's released, and they have that happy ending. Had it been that type of ending, sure, it's a bit more cliche, but there's more utility to it because the stuff that they're showcasing is real stuff that real people deal with, that real people face. But the actual conclusion to that thing is not a real solid conclusion. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And because of that, again, I couldn't rewatch it. Doing this review right now, I watched it, I believe, twice, and I can't even sit through this thing another time because of what that ending is. Because, long story short, with my story, I was able to eventually not only get a new job, but get the best job of my career because of sort of the persistence necessary to get there. But watching something like this is so nihilistic and discouraging that I don't honestly know if I would be where I'm at now had I actually watched this more than once. And that's my issue is something that's good, something that's great is not meant to be watched just once. to talk about. It's something that you rewatch multiple times because it's amazing, because there's so much you can gain from it and learn from it. And my issue with this story in particular is there's just no utility. So I can't recommend it. I don't want to watch it again. I don't want to see anything else Black Mirror. In fact, my wife even told me, she's like, stop it. Don't even, she didn't want me to do this review, but I wanted to do it because of the fact that I'm like, no, someone requested it, so I got to do it. But I'm also done with Black Mirror. This is actually the last time I'm going to do a Black Mirror review, crossing my fingers because again, I might get some requests on it. But genuinely speaking, I can't continue with this series anymore. They got me too many times. They got me too many times because this happens with every single episode. Every single episode, it's the same thing. You have your amazing, wonderful concept, right? You have your good storytelling mechanics being used to tell the story. And then you have a nice hook and you're feeling for the characters and you get to the ending and it ruins the entire thing and makes you not even want to rewatch it. I mean, again, I can't continue with this series. But with that said, that's what I gotta say. So hopefully you like my spoiler review for this, as it's gonna be my last Black Mirror spoiler review. But I'm gonna get back to doing what I like to do best, which is focusing on stories that I find compelling and stories that I feel are actually useful in your day to day. And I'm gonna get more into some of that with some of the stories I'm gonna be covering. Now, again, I like to cover superhero content because I think that there's just a special thing about that medium that can help to compel others in an amazing and unique way. And there's reasons why it's done billions upon billions of dollars because there's something there. And with Black Mirror, with this episode of Black Mirror in particular, there isn't anything else there. So with that said, I'm your man Lex. I'm out and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.